tragedy has struck the gospel community in a way no one was prepared for. Beloved gospel legend Vanessa Nolles has passed away in a fatal crash, leaving fans, family, and fellow artists in a state of shock. The headlines alone are heartbreaking, but the deeper story of her final moments reveals far more than anyone expected. And once you understand everything that happened, you'll see why this loss has shaken the gospel world to its foundation. The news spread like wildfire across social media, sending ripples of grief throughout the gospel community. Vanessa Nolles wasn't just a singer, she was a voice of faith, hope, and healing. From her childhood days singing in church pews to becoming one of gospel's most celebrated and beloved voices, she touched countless lives. Now, with her sudden passing in a devastating accident, fans everywhere are searching for answers. But what most people don't know are the heartbreaking details behind that tragic night. Reports say Vanessa was driving home after a small private gathering where she performed for church leaders, family, and close friends. It was meant to be a joyful night, a night of laughter, fellowship, and her unforgettable voice filling the room one more time. No one imagined it would be her final performance. As Vanessa left the event, she drove onto a stretch of highway known for its danger. Witnesses described the sound of screeching brakes and the violent impact that followed, an impact so loud some thought an explosion had occurred. First responders rushed to the scene within minutes, but the damage was already catastrophic. Despite all efforts, Vanessa did not survive. Authorities later confirmed the crash involved multiple vehicles. While the investigation is still ongoing, early signs point to hazardous weather and high speed as contributing factors. Some witnesses claim another driver lost control, creating a chain reaction that Vanessa couldn't escape. And what makes this even more devastating is the timing. Vanessa was only days away from announcing a new music project that many believed would mark a major milestone in her career. Instead of celebrating a new season, the gospel world woke up to the news that one of its most cherished voices had fallen silent forever. At the crash site, a memorial has already begun to form. Flowers, candles, handwritten notes, and even vinyl records of her greatest songs are being placed along the road by fans, some who knew her personally, and others who simply knew her music. It's a powerful reminder of how deeply her voice touched people. In a recent interview, one that now feels tragically prophetic, Vanessa said, "Every day I sing like it might be my last." No one listening back then could have imagined how true those words would become. But to understand why her loss feels so heavy, we have to look at the extraordinary life she lived. Vanessa Nolles wasn't just a gospel artist. She was a storyteller, a leader, and a vessel of healing for people who relied on her music during their darkest moments. Her story began in the small church where she grew up. Born into a family whose lives revolved around faith and worship, she was surrounded by hymns, choirs, and prayer from the moment she entered the world. Her parents often said she could hum melodies before she could form full sentences. By 5 years old, she was leading songs in church. People noticed immediately, her voice carried something different, something powerful, something anointed. As a teenager, she became known as the girl with the golden voice. Her solos moved entire congregations to tears. By high school, she was performing at regional gospel events and gaining a reputation for vocals that felt like they were poured straight from heaven. And then came her breakthrough. In her early 20s, she joined a traveling gospel group, performing in churches and auditoriums across the country. It didn't matter if the audience was 50 people or 5,000, Vanessa had a way of capturing hearts instantly. Fans described her voice as a blend of raw power and deep, soul-stirring emotion. But it wasn't just her voice that set her apart. It was her authenticity. Vanessa refused to dilute the message of gospel for mainstream success. She released music rooted in faith, resilience, and God's grace. Her debut independent album sold thousands purely through word of mouth. By the mid-2000s, she was a household name in gospel music. She collaborated with legends, headlined major worship events, and earned award nominations. Yet she stayed humble. She once said, "Awards don't save lives, music does." Some of her most powerful songs were written during her darkest seasons, and fans could feel that truth in every lyric. One of her biggest hits, now a timeless church anthem, was written during a season of deep personal grief. That transparency made her music even more impactful. She also became a mentor, guiding young gospel artists and helping them navigate an industry that often overlooks new voices. Many rising stars credit her with being the reason they kept going. Vanessa believed music was ministry, not competition. Her roots remained her foundation. She continued returning to her hometown, singing at her childhood church and participating in community events. No matter how far her voice reached, she never forgot where she came from. But her future was just beginning. Vanessa had spent the last year working on a project that aimed to bridge traditional gospel with modern sounds, a project insiders believed could redefine her entire career and introduce her voice to a new generation. Now, that project remains unfinished, a painful reminder of all she still had left to give. When news of her passing broke, the gospel world came to a standstill. Fans flooded social media with tributes, sharing stories of how her songs carried them through heartbreak, illness, and loss. The hashtag Remember Vanessa Nolles trended worldwide. TikTok creators posted montages of her live performances. Choirs held candlelight vigils, singing her songs in her honor. Fellow gospel artists wept openly online. One legend wrote, "When Vanessa sang, heaven opened." R&B and soul artists also paid tribute, calling her a force whose voice taught generations how to endure. Churches across the country dedicated services to her memory. In one viral clip, a pastor said, "We lost a voice, but heaven gained a worshiper." Friends who knew her personally shared emotional stories, how she prayed with fans after concerts, encouraged young artists, and always made time for people no matter how busy she was. Her death didn't just break hearts. It created a deep void. The gospel industry is built on voices that carry both power and purpose. Vanessa Nolles was one of those rare voices. She blended tradition with modernity, reaching both grandparents in church pews and teenagers streaming her songs online. She was a bridge, a unifier. Her absence isn't just felt. It's heard. A silence now sits where her voice once lifted millions. Her mentorship of younger artists, her commitment to faith over fame, and her transformative influence on gospel music have left a gap that will be difficult, if not impossible, to fill. Industry leaders already admit that while other voices will rise, there will never be another Vanessa. And yet, her impact will continue. Her recordings, her live performances, her message, they all live on. In many ways, her legacy may grow even stronger now, as fans and artists fight to ensure her work is preserved and celebrated.